Welcome. Welcome to you all to this new edition of Formation of Educators. I'm Pedro Aguado. I'm a Pires. I'm the president of this commission, and then I will present to you the team. Let us begin our encounter with a moment of prayer. After the moment of prayer, I will introduce the method, the work method, the goals, and our plans, and though we will also talk about the schedule. But first of all, let us position ourselves in the hands of He who is calling us. So in this prayerful way, let us begin. She has to turn on the mic. The mic's off, please. Her mic's off. Can you please tell her to turn on the mic? Okay. Since it's going to be a very involving day, so let us silence ourselves and center ourselves in this day to be quite attentive and take advantage of today. So this moment of silence that can help us to live aware of who we are, aware of what we do, that can help us to acknowledge the center of our life, what pushes us, what motivates us, the center of our mission that can help us to live our life fully. Seated as we are, we take a comfortable posture. Let's sit so with your sit up straight and then on the back of your chair, if you like, comfortably. This is going to ease the breathing. If it's possible, close your eyes. Or let us look at a fixed point or in order to relax. And let's breathe 3 times in a very deep way with pauses, but without being forced in any way. Bearing in mind the rhythm of our breathing. Let us focus our attention on our senses. We allow them to open up and we perceive the sounds, smells, and the feelings that we are experiencing. And we welcome them. Now let us focus on our mind. And let's allow ourselves to silence our mind. But put aside concerns we have, expectations, everything that can distract us. And we welcome this tranquility of our mind, attentive glance. And we are thankful for all this. Now we are going to focus on our heart. Let's allow it to be soothed and let love flow. Without any resistance. Our heart is full of appreciation, and goodness. And we welcome ourselves within this love, and we welcome the people who are with us. Also, those who are not here. Of all beings of creation. We are part of the entire creation. Let us rest in this silence that surfaces from inside and that connects us to true life. It connects us with God, who is our same being, and that's where He always is. We just allow it to flow in our lives, in the things we do in our everyday life. We welcome Him. We allow Him to be in each one of us. We allow ourselves to be welcomed by Him in the peace that we are and the attention we are. A peace and a focus that is not thought about. Let us try not to think about it, but actually felt and experienced. And let this peace, this life, allow it to dwell in us. Let us stay this way until the music stopped. In this environment of peace and tranquility, let us live this day with fullness and listening and attentive to the richness and the surprise that it's going to bring to us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for helping us in this prayer. Just a couple of minutes just to introduce to you something about the work that we're going to do, and then we have to start working because there's a lot to do. Thank you for being here and for accepting our invitation. You have a folder with the timetable. We're going to stick to this timetable, but there's going to be some changes because the dynamic of a workshop, this has to be adjusted as things go. What is clear, when we have coffee and when we have lunch and when we are going to finish, that is paramount. So the rest we will just so at 11:30, we are going to have the coffee break, and then we will resume at 12. At 1, we will finish for lunch. 2:30, we're going to resume. It's not too long of a lunch because we would like to finish more or less at 6:30 today. Then tomorrow, we're going to begin at 9 o'clock to celebrate here the Eucharist in the room that is on the other floor. And then more or less, we're going to finish at 1 o'clock. So with this timetable, you understand more or less the schedule, even if the work is going to depend a lot how the workshop is going and your participation. We will see how this we will move on. As you know, this workshop is held annually, and it's organized by the 2 unions of women and men superiors. We are here in the UISG headquarters in Rome that you see. It's quite nice to welcome this type of seminars, formation, and reflections. Who is called to this? Clearly, all of you welcome. We always invite people who have some responsibility in our institutions, both at a general level as well as provincial level and local level, or institutional people who can participate in on the topic that we decide and every year, and that you can bring to your institutions. And the goals are always 2. We never change these goals, never. And we keep them steadily. The first one is to networking among us. And this is very important. The goal is to get to know, exchange, reflect together, and that all the institutions that we dedicate ourselves to, the schools, the different congregations who are working in the field of education, can learn from one another and share our richness and our challenges. This is the networking activity is always present. And the second depends on the topic that has been chosen for this year's work. So concretely this year, as you know, we have decided the presentation and what we can learn on a project that is very important today in the education field, and specifically in the Catholic education, which is backed by many congregations and dioceses and clearly of the Holy See. The project ICANN, that marks the change, and the deep relationship with the Laudato Si program that comes from the Encyclical of Pope Francis, that is asking for the care of our common home. We are convinced that children, young people, can change the world. And that's the focus. And we who are Christians and educators, we know that Jesus Christ gives the keys of the kingdom. He gave them to the children. And we know this quite clearly, right? It's quite clear. If you don't become children, you will enter into heaven, right? The keys, we think the keys are for the Pope. I mean, the Pope definitely has the keys, but the keys of the kingdom are given to the children, the pure children, and the doors of the kingdom are opened by children. This is how we are organizing this, so the kingdom of God, that we can change our world based on the fact that children and young people can create a different world, more human and more fraternal. In order to accompany this, we have 2 people who are going to guide guide our work. Juan Antonio Ojeda from LaSalle. I will introduce you. I'm going to present him after. And then Monica Tanton de Celis, director of the program in Spain and Europe and member of the directive team. She's going to be in charge of the workshop, so that we will then explain to you after. So with the 2 of them, we will be able to have an intense day full of learning. Tomorrow, we will receive the visit Monsignor Bruno Visse. He is the Secretary of the Dicastery of Human Integral Development, as you know. It's created by Pope Francis 1 year ago, this dicastery, and it integrates the topic of ecology, migrants, exclusion. It's all that in some way is of interest to us. He will come and he is going to bring to us a message in order also to allow us to participate in the concerns of Pope Francis and the Holy See on all the educational dynamic that can encourage the effort for Laudato Si, for the care of the common home. Certainly, we will also have some people of the Foundation Santa Maria, who is going to talk about the program I Can and the Design for Change. I will introduce the Juan Antonio Ojeda as the religious of La Salle. He works a lot in OIEC. He's specialized in education, and actually, I don't think I'm mistaken. He has a lot of his networking. He's a specialist in. He's working a lot at this project, and we have asked him to begin the seminar opening the landscape of what we are addressing, not more on the workshop point of view, but in an overview. Let us set the stage of the today and tomorrow's work out of the keys that we are educational institutions are trying to carry out. Then after, there can be a moment of Q&A if you want to ask him something, and then straight away we are going to introduce you to the workshop. So we're going to take advantage of the time we have. So, Juan Antonio, here you go. The floor is yours. Okay, first of all, welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. I would like to thank Pedro and the Commission of Education for having invited me to present to you this project. The encounter, it is a different encounter because rather than theory, it tends to be a hands-on encounter so that you can get to know deeply better the tools of change, because this project changes the educational paradigm, as we will see. So it is important to be completely involved in this dynamic. I'm going to make a presentation. Can I get the PowerPoint, please? Can you show the PowerPoint? Thank you. Usually, we are accustomed to the fact that the Church, the UN, international organization, present to us some action lines, some documents, relevant, important documents that can help us to understand and transform schools. However, this project comes out of the vocation, a practical vocation of putting into the hands of the schools and the teachers a tool to change education and the world from the grassroots and from inside. It's called the ICANN project, but this ICANN project is not set from the adult or the teacher or the school principal, but I said from the child and the young person, giving children, young people, allowing them to become protagonists. You know that in traditional schools, the teacher is in front of the student, of the pupil, because he teaches, he conveys knowledge, and he invites the student to memorize, to reproduce, mimic. The new movement of the school at the beginning of the 20th century was recommending to us not to put ourselves in front, but to the side of the student in order to mediate, facilitate, accompany his learning process. In the beginning of the 21st century, all the search, investigation, expert surveys are telling us not to put ourselves in front, not even to the side, but now we have to go behind the student. That is, that we put on him, the child and the student must be the protagonist and allow him to make mistakes so that he can learn from his mistakes. And he's inviting us, psychological studies, neuroscientific, anthropological surveys demonstrate that to show us, Nina, so we must center our focus on children and young people. This is where this project comes out of. This has been translated into 5 languages: Spanish, French, English, Portuguese, and Italian. Congregation of Mary Auxiliary is translating this into Arabic and Polish. It's also being translated into German and Romanian. And there's also an attempt to translate it into Chinese. Well, that's what we see here on the screen is the didactic guide. It's what arrives directly to the school and to the teacher. And we explain to them what we must do and how we must do this and so on. So rather than a paper document, we give this online. It's a PDF so that you can receive it quickly to all the schools and to each classroom. Don't worry if we don't have it. You will receive it, all of you, so you have it an online version and also in the 5 languages, because so you can hand it out yourselves. In this project, as we will see, it's not a project that we are animating it, but we think it's a project that belongs to all. Here, the Catholic school plays an important role because we are encouraging, because it's open to all the schools worldwide, both the public schools as well as Catholic schools. So it's a project that belongs to all. Nobody wants to go ahead of others. So in a very humble way, to join together in implementing this project. This project is sponsored by the Congregation of Catholic Education, which is the Ministry of Education of the Vatican. We cannot have Monsignor Sani, who is the General Secretary of the Congregation, because he is in Colombia, and tomorrow he's going to go to Ecuador. I was with him last Saturday, and he said to greet you all and encouraging us to work actively at this project. So again, OIEC, the Catholic education, according to schools, we have the alumni, UISG, USG, with FIDAE, Catholic Schools of Italy, FIDAE, because their percentage is also important, and as a foundation that has helped us in spreading everything. So the first message of my theory presentation is that we have a lot of theory, but what we need is practice, hands-on. We need to move to action. We need absolutely to get going. I have been invited by the Dicastery of Integral Human Development in the month of July, the 5th and 6th, in the Vatican. We had an international meeting on Laudato Si, celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the Encyclical. All the participants and the speakers said the urgent need that we put into practice. It is the lack of action is more harmful than the world is worsening at incredible speed, that we can reach collapse, meaning that we can reach a point where there's no going back. We can look at this in the climate, environment, this degree of temperature, and then we can have a lot of villages that will have to leave their land, their homes. We are suffering great catastrophes. These are signs that the chaos is increasing, and it is important to act. Politicians have a role, ecologists have another one, economists have another role, the markets another one, but the school, and the Catholic school even more so, has a role to play, a very important role to play, not just to talk, but to do, to put into practice. So we talk, we make ideas, we know the way, but we do not act. And sometimes we act in a very practical way. Oh, we should do this, we should do the other, but we must have a hands-on and start working in a very systematic way. We think that this project can help us to act efficiently, putting the power and the decision making in children and young people, and not when we are in front of them. We always tell them, do this, don't do this, recycle waste, take care of the plants. We educate them from the outside, but this project has a completely different, opposite focus. We must educate the girls and boys from inside. They are the ones who feel inside that it's wrong, and what they must change. They should think a solution, and that are not there in just sometimes the schools is just there thinking, but it difficultly puts into practice change. And but we must commit, engage in transforming of the personal context, social ones, and environmental. And another important aspect is the different projects that are carried out in each classroom and school is in a common platform to sharing and to be of an inspiration and being contagious to others in different places of the world. Therefore, a call to get going, start acting. At the end of the seminar, it was so nice to be all engaged to do projects of change. So first by disseminating, raising awareness, training other schools, and then get going, action. Because we must not waste time anymore, and we who are involved in evangelization, it's so important. Those impacted into climate change are the poor, the neglected of the earth, and so we owe it especially to them to achieve this project. It doesn't end in itself. It has a lot of synergies that we will try to see. It means to change education and change school, but we don't do this from the outside, painting it full of resources, but we're going to change it from the inside, changing the role of the student, of the teacher, changing the usage of space, changing the CV. So we're changing it from the inside progressively, one step at a time. Education, in the words of Pope Francis in the Encyclical Laudato Si, in 2015, education is going to be and the efforts will be sterile, meaning null, if it is not concerned in spreading a model of being humans. We are all aware that society is becoming dehumanized. We are in the 21st century. We should be more human. Instead, we are less human. Violence is increasing, corruption, being injustice, the lack of justice. So on the other hand, to spread a new model of life that allows us to relate ourselves better one with the other, a new model of society. Throughout history, we have been building relationship with human beings, but we have seen that they are getting worse. And what we have neglected more is relationships that we have the environment. We have used the environment and we have abused of the environment. And clearly, this is why we are invited through church and society to the care of the common home. This allows us to live and relate to one another. So this is very important. I'm going to give you this presentation, this PowerPoint presentation. You receive it. So we must promote an integral education. The Pope speaks to us. We must educate the head, the heart, and the hands. So we must educate the child and the young person, not from the outside, but from inside. What is this method all about? This method, as we will see, has 4 or 5 phases. And where did it start? We can say we could start from the head, as we traditionally, the school does, intellectual development, working of the mind, the building of knowledge. However, this methodology starts from the heart, of what you feel, of what you feel, and this allows to educate emotions. Many surveys show that without emotions, there is no learning. So these methodologies allow the children and young people to touch reality and see that the neighborhood is dirty, there's a lot of waste, and to see that parks, the playgrounds are getting worse, and that water is polluted because it's been seen, wasted, polluted, held. And they have seen that there are people on the streets, poor people. So we see this reality. So starting from there, they educate and they work on the mind. And they imagine. And the second one, the fourth one is to feel, imagine a solution. They search, then they debate, they speak, they ask one another. So it is a search, a common search. They use a personal intelligence and the collective intelligence, which is very important as well. We're working on the emotional intelligence, individual, the abilities of each one, and collective intelligence. And the third phase of this project is action. Put it into practice, being involved. And for example, we discovered we have to do this and not just stay there and stuck to the idea, but put this into practice. And lastly, to share it with the idea of a movement at a local, national, and international level of change. So for them to be the ones who are going to change the world. Look, this was in June of 2017 when we presented the Laudato Si in working in this. The Pope says that educators are called with their profession and with their human richness to help young people to be builders of a united and peaceful world. Not to teach, but to help, to put to the side or behind students, for they will be the ones who transform their realities. I think that the Synod of Youth has said this quite clearly. The Pope did not put over, but next together with the church to listen to young people so that they are the ones who answer. And how should we do with this? With skills, but basically in a human way with love. On the other hand, to spread a new paradigm on human being and life, and what we need, we must listen to young people. We must use our ears, allow them to actively participate in the transformation, and it's an invitation of children and young people to address the challenges because they are small seeds of transformation. It would be really nice for us to believe in children, to trust children. We say children, we're talking about, like Monica's going to explain to us, 3 years old. Children, you don't have to be 20 or you don't have to be 50 years old to change the world. When you're 3, 4, 5, 8 years old, 10 years old, they can change. They want, they know, and they can change the world, as we will see throughout this workshop. To see what is said by other experts. For example, Claudio Naranjo, in a conference in January of 2017, he said, often education is a crime. It's a cheating. We're cheating our students with the classes, with a lot of content that change nothing. And it's wrong to think that by teaching is educating. Educating is something much more than conveying knowledge. You're robbing their life. It's as if you're putting them in a closed area, in a prison. School has to go to life, and life has to enter into the school, actually. And this is this question, and we can ask ourselves the same question, that we must educate to freedom, for wisdom, for love. Who is going to train those educators? These educators must be, like the poet, must be knowledgeable, but at the same time, they should embody these values of giving freedom, of love, of being respectful, of the dignity of the life of children, young people, how to train them. We need educators who know how to convey values. And basically, these are the values: love for the other, love to our neighbors, to put ourselves in the shoes of others, and creating a school that is empathic. I don't know where you are working, but the way where I work, basically in Spain and Latin America, the school is turned into not nice for young people, also for the family, and also even so that not nice for the teachers themselves, that are just they earn their salary, just do this essay, this page, one year after the other. We must change the school to be empathic, where children and young people can put themselves in the shoes of others and transform their life. Educate is to take from the inside, encourage the development of what we are, love others and love oneself. More than 20 years ago, that the Delors and report have this learning to learn how to be, to live together, to learn how to learn to do things. What are we doing in the school? Nothing. Are we applying this in the school? Or very little. However, this project is going to allow us to put into play all these dynamics, and then after to put it into practice in other contexts and situations. There's a concept of education that I think is very important and very contagious. From the gospel, we said this: to educate is to save the person. Put it differently, to educate is to heal the person. This boy and girl comes from situations that are bleeding, situation of divided families, of poor situations, and they are going to find in the school an oasis. And sometimes they find the opposite. They find a hostile area or something of the sort, and they would like to find something in school, a place of peace, a place that can heal them, that generates new humanity that given by the Church of the last document that is more solidary. The Catholic education in 2016 published this document of educating to solidarity of humanity, which is a wonderful document with 5 challenges. So, educate. And here we have the picture of Kiran Bisetti. This is going to be explained by Monica, but she was the creator of this methodology. He's going to tell us something about her. And basically, she tells us that to educate, what is important is what? The content. But even more important, and she agrees with many other surveys that have come out, even more important of what to teach is how. For what, meaning the process, the learning process is so important, like the goal, where we're heading to, and this method is centered on the way rather than on where we are going. It's not giving answers, but it's formulating questions and putting into action the boy and the girl. Basically, when we educate, and sometimes we lose sight of this, we educate is the reason why, for what. Why they do what they do, meaning what are the goals. Often it's unknown to them. Why should I learn English? Why should I need to learn math? Why should I study so many languages? They do not know why, and so they're not involved. But in this method is going to shed light for what they do. Children, they are not the future, they are the present. This is also said to us, Kira, and we are always more aware of this. They're not the future, they are the present. They're now. They are already the present. They are seeds of transformation, and instead of killing these seeds, we must allow them to grow, this seed to grow. And we tell us children are 1/3 of the world population. The reality of Europe is there's many adults, elderly people, but realities of other continents is children, there's a majority of children. You don't listen to their voices, we ignore them, and we're treated as incomplete human beings that we must need to teach and model. We must believe in them, to trust the fact that they know what they want, and they can change things. Let us be amazed by them. They will surprise us. Children do not need permission to create a better world. They just need the tools to design a world that is more desirable and more sustainable. And this is what we are going to focus on doing. A world that is not going to be repaired because our children are already prepared and they are acting in this new society. This new focus that we would like to cultivate with the mentality of the I can mentality. They prepare themselves to be aware of the world that surrounds us. They are aware of it through the heart and the mind. They see what is happening. They're capable of deciding, planning, acting with power to design a better world, a more human, a just, solidarity, and sustainable world, creating an international network of change and transforming their lives and their contexts. And this, we have adults, but they more changing than a boy or a girl of what they themselves have decided to do. It's more transforming. So this is a little bit an overview. I'm going to present to you the guide, and then this is the front page. We can customize it if we like. Here, this is the logo of the Catholic school of Italy, Fide, and then perhaps we can put the logo. The Salesian network has personalized it with a logo on top and also with some further information. So this is what each school is going to receive and each classroom is going to receive. Just to, in the meeting in July, organized by the Dicastery of Integral Human Development, it was the second opportunity I was able to present to the Pope this project. And as we will see, the Pope is very happy about this. And in the leaflet, Pope himself, in the introduction, these are the different pages of the booklet here. This first page, and Pope is telling us we need to listen to the children and young people, help them to build a more united and peaceful world. And they should answer to the challenges. This invitation to listen to young people and allow them to be protagonists. Cardinal Bersaldi, the prefect of the Congregation of Catholic Education, is telling us that we must take a step back to allow children and young people to be protagonists of decision making. And on his side, Monsignor Sani, the Secretary of the Congregation of Catholic Education, invites us, children and young people, to co-create projects of change. What is this all about? So they should co-create a project or stories of transformation whose primary focus is Laudato Si, but talking about the challenges of Laudato Si, many of them are focused on the care of the home and common home, but they impact of people and relationship of people, society. So have an impact of these dimensions, the personal dimension, social dimension, and ecological dimension of the person. On the other hand, it coincides with the goals of sustainable development. You know, the 17 objectives of the UN, sustainable towards 2020, to eradicate poverty, health, quality education, the care of oceans, water, energy, saving. Many of these goals coincide with the challenge imposed by Laudato Si. We, the Catholic SDG, we can work on the challenge of Laudato Si. The public school is involved in working of the SDGs, development goals, and we are turning into reality an educational agreement that all the children's and young people can work for social and environmental improvement. And this is to co-creating, to create this in groups with others. Answer to these challenges, responding how? How can we with this methodology? Because why this and not another one? Because this allows us easily to exchange. This methodology adapts quite well in what one is doing at the schools, because as we say in Spain, it's not a methodology, it's an elephant that changes everything, enters into a glass store that changes everything. It adapts to other methodologies quite nicely. In order to work with this, unfortunate, it's by project, meaning if you're working by project, here it gives us some possibilities, simpler way, more simple way, and this eases our way of working with this other dynamic. It calls for cooperation work. If you work with us in the cooperation way, this is good because boys and girls can interact one with the other, and they strengthen this cooperation work that you have started in your schools and classrooms. They also involve the multiple intelligence because they share their skills that are more, somebody is more in the math world, another was in more the literary world, and they're complemented, they're adding this potentials, and one help the other. So it's quite great. They learn doing. They do not learn from theory, but from their own practice. This is a methodology that is relates quite well with what we are doing habitually. The fact of working in all the Catholic schools independently from the religious institutions allows us to look at from one institution to the other. We are in the time of collaboration. Institutions were born to respond to challenges specific of one time. And we were born in an independent way. But we are all members of the Catholic schools. We have the same goals, objectives. However, in our everyday practice, what do? We collaborate or we compete. If we're honest and we say this in front of a mirror, habitually what we do, we compete, right? They better come to my school rather than to go to the other school, because it's also a Catholic school, but I want them to enroll in my school. And this is going to allow us to look at one another and work together and see that this is possible. The future of the Catholic school, because we can collaborate more, that we can collaborate one with the other. Many places, the Catholic school, it gets ages. Catholic schools closes. The only way of render it young again and to allow it to grow is to having common projects, collaborating one with the other. I'm not going to, I will not dwell too much on this because it's going to lead to another point. Just to say that the foundations are that we can collaborate one with the other. It design for change. This is the methodology. It has four phases: to feel the needs, imagine new solutions, and do and make the change possible, and share what has been done. The central page of this guide for the teacher's guide, you have this methodology, these stages, what Monica is going to work with you today and tomorrow, so that you can have this practical experience, this hands-on experience, because clearly this entails a change. The teacher is no longer in front, but in the back. And now the protagonist is the student. First, you feel, starting from the heart. There's some steps to take. You imagine steps to take, do some ideas on how to do, and then share some ideas and steps that we must do, not by theory, but in hands-on practice. With whom? We already said with others, in order to carry out these, with whom this development. And then guidelines, but is to get in touch with the person who is in responsible methodology in the country. That it started in 2009 in India. In less than 10 years, it's been in 68 countries. There are people who can help us in formation, because it's a change in paradigm, and we must need formation to this teachers. Some of the center are trained, and then they themselves are going to train their companions, their colleagues, to introduce this novelty. On the other hand, we complete formation by self-formation, reading, searching, looking at other projects, and carrying out projects. This is like the poet. We learn by walking. You mustn't be afraid. The first project will not be so good, and then we are going to improve as we go. I think I invite you to act as soon as possible to put this into practice. Just to tell you that we make mistakes by what we do, and then it's ends up doing. So we mustn't be afraid of making mistakes, right? In doing something differently, and this is going to help us to we'll be amazed of how good this is going to come out, like Monsignor Sani said. So we are disseminating this project, this guideline. This is important also to a moment of world meeting in Rome in 2019, November. 4,000 children coming from all over the world in more than 100 countries to show to the world that they know, want, and can change the world. It's not the final moment, but it's a focus that allows us to give follow-up and be contagious as we move. We're going to skip this. This would be 4,000 children coming from 100 different countries, providing thousands of solutions, answers to Sustainable Development Goals and Laudato Si, and spending 5 days in the Vatican. They will arrive on the 19th of November. This has been set with the Pope in will be St. Peter's Square. These 4,000 children, accompanied by their parents and teachers coming from all over the world, ready for in the back. They have all Catholic and non-Catholic schools that we can be in St. Peter's Squares. More than 20,000 children showing the world their commitment in answering to the challenges of Laudato Si, or the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And then sharing, getting to know the country, and then on Thursday and Friday, sharing, and we haven't been confirmed. We have a special audience in the Hall 6 room. This is the audience with the Pope. So all the 4,000 children coming from all over the world, plus the 2,000 people who accompany them, the guests, in order to have an encounter where you share some of the best projects, and the Pope also can address some words to them. And this to raise awareness around the world, the commitment of children, educators, and the schools for the care of the common home. In the final part, there is an invitation of the person responsible of OIC, Philippe Richard, Pedro Aguado, of the President of the International Union of Civil Generals, Jose Maria del Corral, Jose Antonio Cecilia, President of Alumni, and Kiran Bir Sashi. She's the founder of Design for Change. It's a personalized invitation. I finished my talk with a small video that is one of the projects that we have shared. We were invited to the Synod of Young People and the Youth on the 6th audience with the Pope and the Synod members in the Hall 6 Hall, and it was quite telling, the fact that the Pope was not on the top, but he was down to give full protagonism to children and young people. Let us a couple of minutes that can help us to finish this more theory part, and then goes more to the practical part of Monica. You're going to put the video